Artwork and being an artist has been sort of a natural inclination. I think it's really a way of processing the world, and it's been a lifestyle as well. I did study art in undergrad at the University of Minnesota, but there's such a big gap between being a student and studying art and feeling like you have the hang of what a studio practice is and being versed in understanding what your role as an artist is specifically. So it's something that's evolving and has evolved kind of recently. I come from a painting and drawing background, and my work has, over the past 3 to 4 years, taken on a new role, kind of a more conceptual new media role where I'm doing a lot of video, and the content has shifted and the visual aspect has shifted a bit. So it's a big work in progress, and I think that's kind of what my definition maybe is of myself being an artist, is just constantly being aware of where I'm at and where I've been and looking forward and learning new ways of working and creating new work. Yeah, it's an evolution. My name is Liza Sylvestre and I am an artist. The story that I want to tell with my work, I think it's something that is evolving right now. In the past, it's been about creating kind of an empathetic environment for people to learn from about my particular experience. And I feel like I'm changing from wanting to tell people about my experience to wanting to create environments where people can learn about their own experiences. Learn about their sensory experience or learn about preconceived notions about their senses. I mean, the art world and its history are dominated by a visual hierarchy. And so what does it mean to break that hierarchy? And how would a scenario or environment look like to have my viewers come in, or viewers, subjects, because they're not just viewers, they're also listeners and feelers and touchers and tasters. What would it be like to have them understand their senses in a different way? My process starts with a lot of writing. I have lots of notebooks that I've kept throughout the years, and it's taken me a long time to identify that, which is silly when I think about it, but writing is a big aspect of my creative process. And whether it's actual writing that's more journalistic or poetic or prose, or I make these lists usually when I have an idea that I'm trying to flesh out or figure out if it's worth pursuing. So I always kind of come back to the writing aspect as being where my work starts. And even when I'm starting with things that are more visual right now, like the drawings, these are all research-based, where I was looking at different ways that we as humans convey meaning without using written language. So when does a chart or a mark take on the role of language in conveying information? I would say right now my work starts with a lot of thinking and a lot of reflecting on my own personal experience and how that is specific to my sensory experience. And it starts with research as well. And then I'm still learning how best to work, and so the process of going from the page here and my notebook here to actually making the work there's a lot of variability, and there's a lot of things that don't work out. I feel like this whole semester I've been making videos that just aren't quite there yet, so I just make them and I move on to the next thing. I'm really interested right now in how my sensory experience informs what I know about the world or don't know about the world. I grew up losing my hearing really gradually. So it has been a big part of defining who I am. And it's something that my new media work for the past 3 years has really grappled with. You know, not just limiting my story to specific, and I'm especially thinking about this right now, limiting my art experience to the one sense that I don't have access to, which is hearing, but expanding to other senses and really thinking about what is a multi-sensory experience, and also addressing and thinking about right now like the hierarchy of our senses. We live in this visually dominated world, and all of our senses kind of follow that hierarchy. So what would artwork that breaks that hierarchy look like? What would an environment that is equally accessed through all of our accesses, or all of our senses look? I'm thinking a lot about those kinds of things right now. Behind me are 2 different series of drawings. This wall is covered in what I call interference drawings, and they are diaristic in the sense that I've really tried to not hold back in my writing. I tried to be really raw and reveal things that maybe are private. And then what I've done is I've gone back and I have redacted the parts of the words that I'm not able to hear. So I was initially interested in the visual pattern that makes, but then I'm also interested in this feeling of revealing things and hiding them at the same time, which I think is so akin to what my experience as someone with a disability has been like, just being out in the world every day. I have a cochlear implant so I can hear, or I miss conversations at the grocery store or wherever, and people witness that, and I'm aware that people witness that. And so it's that feeling of the space that's created when you feel exposed but don't want to feel exposed. So those drawings are connected to that. All of this new media work started with an idea for a video that I had, which is, I call it, what if I told you a story in a language I can hear? And it was just a really simple idea of taking a piece of writing and reading it in my normal voice, which has, I guess, a hearing loss accent to it, and then reciting that same piece of writing a second time. But the second time I recite only the parts of the words I'm able to hear. So the word boombox, which is in the video, changes to ma. So I had to go through this kind of unnatural process of like learning how to say everything like that, because even though I can't hear everything I'm saying, I've gone through enough speech therapy and I have enough years of speaking this way where this is what feels normal. I remember like practicing and the muscles in my face actually were starting to ache by the end of learning how to do that, because I was using my muscles in an unnatural way. So the video is just played over and over, and you kind of like don't know which comes first or second. It creates kind of a loop of these 2 experiences. And I think that was a really nice, simple idea that has been successful because a lot of people have responded to it. But it's really the first step I took into this new media work, and it feels important in the sense that it's the beginning of a lot of other work. In the afternoons of my childhood, I would close the door of my room and turn my boombox on. In the afternoon of my childhood, I would low a door of my room and turn my boombox on. In another video that I call Standing in the Room Without Sound, I recited a piece of writing and then I put a black screen over my face using computer software. And then I kind of cut through that black screen with this hole that kind of snakes over my face. And so it's a barrier to information, but it also is tied into just odd things, like because I have a hearing loss, I read people's lips and I have a tendency to like focus on people's mouths like really intensely when I'm communicating with them. And I've noticed that it can make people uncomfortable, or it's just there's all these social behavioral things that come up. And so I've trained myself to kind of look around at a person's face as I'm communicating with them. And so the direction of that information that's not blacked out by the rest of the screen is connected to that eye movement that I do. There's something hard beneath my skin. It's only inches long, but it is stuck against me. One other thing I'm working on right now is a project that I call Sound Survey. And what I have done is I have recorded sounds that objects in my studio make. So they're everyday sounds made by everyday objects, and I have this relationship to them, but maybe it's not the same as someone with normal hearing's relationship to them. So I recorded these sounds, and then I built this kind of podium box, and I've asked my viewers / listeners to listen to these sounds and to describe them for me without actually naming the sound. So if they heard water, I didn't want them to write water. I wanted them to like really slow down and think about, well, how do I describe water? Which is an impossible thing in some ways. And I have accumulated these really amazing listener responses that I think are very poetic and incredibly interesting to me just as archives and objects. And so I'm in the process of kind of figuring out what to do with these. And I've been talking with a music composer here on campus and also a dancer here on campus as using this as a possible collaborative starting point. The same thing is infuriating and hard and also very rewarding, which is just this need to keep making new work and evolving. I would say that's my biggest drive, but also my biggest cause of stress and turmoil, but also the biggest reward if I actually do it. What I understand about myself at this point in my career is that I'm not happy to just continue making the same work. I have to keep going forward with something in some way, otherwise I would still be making paintings and drawings. So I would say the thing that gives me the most reward and satisfaction is also the thing that keeps me up at night, basically, which is that desire to keep growing.
To get involved and support the Urbana Public Arts program, please contact the Public Arts Coordinator Rachel Storm at rlstorm@urbanaillinois.us or 217-328-8265.